This is the Daily Brief, one landmark court decision explained in plain English every day. Presented by FindCourtCases.com, this is your daily briefing on the law that shapes American life.
Imagine for a second you're facing a year in prison and a $2,000 fine.
Right.
Not for hurting someone, not for damaging their property, but for expressing an idea.
An idea that many people, maybe most people, find deeply offensive.
That was the reality on the table in 1984. The risk was enormous. The right to protest using symbols, even when that act feels like an attack on the country itself.
And today we are diving deep into that very conflict. We're looking at one of the most polarizing First Amendment cases in American history, Texas versus Johnson from 1989.
It's a case that really gets to the heart of what free speech means. It forces you to ask whether the government can or should shield us from ideas we hate.
And our mission here is to unpack how the Supreme Court came to its conclusion.
Right, how they decided that destroying an American flag can be a protected form of speech.
And if there's one single sentence you walk away with, it should be this. Flag burning, when it's used to send a political message, is protected expressive conduct under the First Amendment.
Even if that act is offensive to almost everyone who sees it.
Even then. That's the core idea we have to grapple with.
So let's start with the story, the human element. How did this all begin?
It all starts in Dallas, Texas. The year is 1984.
And the Republican National Convention is in town.
Exactly. So the political temperature is already running very, very high. It's a tense environment.
And into this scene walks Gregory Lee Johnson.
Right. He's part of a political demonstration. They're protesting the Reagan administration, some corporate policies in Dallas.
Usual stuff for a big political convention, a lot of noise.
A lot of noise. They're marching, they're chanting, staging die-ins. The sources describe a very chaotic, very visible protest.
And then they get to Dallas City Hall.
And this is the moment. This is where it all happens. Johnson is handed an American flag.
He didn't take it down himself.
According to the testimony, another protester took it from a flagpole. Johnson gets it. He unfurls it, pours kerosene on it.
And lights it on fire.
The message was unmistakable.
And the reaction was just as immediate.
Absolutely. Now, it's critical to note, no one was physically hurt.
Yeah.
The fire didn't threaten anyone.
The threat wasn't physical, it was symbolic.
Emotional.
It was emotional. The sources are very clear on this. They say several witnesses testified they were seriously offended.
And that offense, that's the legal trigger right there.
That's everything. That feeling of being seriously offended is what the entire case will eventually balance against the First Amendment.
So that offense leads directly to an arrest.
Immediately. Johnson was charged under a Texas law that made it a crime to desecrate a venerated object.
And at first he was convicted.
He was. Sentenced to a year in prison, fined $2,000.
But that wasn't the end of it. He appeals.
He does. And this is where the legal journey gets interesting. It goes up the chain. And the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, the highest criminal court in the state, actually reverses the conviction.
Wait, so his own state's highest court sided with him? They did. They argued that his act, the flag burning, was expressive conduct. It was a form of speech. And so under the First Amendment, the state couldn't punish him for it.
And Texas, I assume, did not like that.
Not at all. Texas argued that the flag isn't just any symbol, and that the state has a compelling interest in protecting it and in preventing the kind of public disturbances an act like this could cause.
So that's the conflict that lands on the Supreme Court's doorstep.
That's it. The big question for them was, is Johnson's public burning of a flag during a political protest a form of speech protected by the First Amendment?
Okay, so let's unpack their answer. The first hurdle seems to be, how is an action burning something the same as speech? I mean, he's not giving a talk.
That's the perfect question.
Yeah.
The court has a term for it. Expressive conduct.
Expressive conduct.
Right. The idea is that an action can be a form of speech if two things are true. First, you have to intend to convey a specific message.
And second, there has to be a good chance that people who see it will understand the message.
Exactly. And Johnson's act checked both boxes. He burned the flag at a political protest outside City Hall during the RNC. The context made the message dissatisfaction with the government crystal clear.
It was, as the court said, sufficiently imbued with elements of communication.
That's the phrase. So once they decided it was speech, they had to look at the government's reasons for banning it.
And Texas had two big arguments.
Two main interests, yes. First, preventing breaches of the peace, stopping riots.
And second, preserving the flag as a symbol of the nation. of unity.
Right.
Let's take the first one, the public safety argument. That seems plausible. Burning a flag is provocative. Why didn't the court buy it?
Well, they looked at the facts on the ground, and in this specific case, no disturbance actually happened.
It was offensive, but it didn't spark violence.
Exactly. The court said it didn't rise to the level of fighting words that would directly incite a riot. And maybe more importantly, they pointed out that Texas already had laws against disturbing the peace.
Oh, so they didn't need a special flag desecration law to keep order?
Correct. If Johnson had actually started a riot, they could have arrested him for that. The flag law wasn't necessary for public safety.
Okay, so that argument fails. That leaves Texas with just the second one, preserving the flag's symbolic value. This feels like the real heart of the case.
It is the absolute core of the case. And this is where a really crucial legal test comes into play, something called the O'Brien test.
The O'Brien test, can you break that down for us?
Sure. So basically, that test applies when the government regulates an action for a reason that is not related to the message being sent. It's for content-neutral laws.
Give me an example.
Okay, say a city bans all open fires downtown for fire safety. That's a content-neutral rule. If Johnson lights his flag on fire there, he can be arrested. But not because the city dislikes his message. It's because he broke a fire safety rule.
I see. The government's interest is in preventing fires, not suppressing speech.
Precisely. And in those cases, the law is usually upheld.
But that's not what the Texas law was about.
Not at all. Texas's stated interest was preserving the flag's symbolic meaning. The court said that interest is directly related to the message.
They were trying to suppress his message of dissent.
Exactly. Texas was punishing him because of what he was saying by burning the flag. And the moment a law is about the content of the message.
It's a content-based restriction.
Yes. And that is a huge red flag for the First Amendment. It means the law has to survive the highest level of judicial review, something called exacting scrutiny or strict scrutiny.
Which almost no law ever does.
It is incredibly difficult to justify. Because what you're doing is viewpoint discrimination. The government is picking and choosing which ideas are acceptable.
And the court's fundamental position is that the government cannot do that. It can't prohibit an idea just because society finds it offensive.
That is the principle. And what the majority opinion essentially said is that the very freedom the flag represents is more important than protecting the physical object itself from being used in a protest.
Justice Brennan wrote the opinion right.
He did, for a very slim 5-4 majority. And he wrote that if the government can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, then the First Amendment means very little.
But it was a 5-4 decision. That tells you just how controversial this was, even inside the court.
Oh, hugely controversial.
Yeah.
And the dissent was passionate. Chief Justice Rehnquist wrote it. And he argued the flag wasn't just another idea or symbol.
He argued it was unique.
Unique, irreplaceable. He talked about its history, its role in battle, how it stands for the nation itself. He basically argued for a constitutional exception.
That because of its special status, it could be protected from desecration.
Yes. The dissenters felt the majority was being too abstract, too theoretical. They argue the flag burning isn't really discourse. It's an inarticulate insult to the nation, and the state should be allowed to ban it.
So you have these two completely different visions of freedom clashing.
You really do. The majority says freedom means we have to tolerate even the most offensive criticism of our national symbols.
While the minority says that protecting those shared symbols is what holds the nation together so that freedom is even possible.
And the majority came down on the side of tolerance. They said the right way to respond to someone like Johnson isn't to put him in jail.
It's to use your own speech.
Right. To try and convince him he's wrong. To show him, through example, that the flag still stands for something valuable, including the freedom for him to express his unpopular view.
So, bringing this forward, why are we still talking about a case from 1989? What's the legacy of Texas v. Johnson today?
Its legacy is everywhere in modern protest. It is the foundational ruling that protects symbolic acts.
You mean nonverbal acts?
Exactly. It's not just about words on a sign. This precedent is why, for instance, there's so much debate around athletes kneeling during the national anthem.
Ah, because kneeling is expressive conduct.
It's a perfect example of expressive conduct. It's a silent, symbolic act meant to convey a very specific political message.
And any attempt by the government to force them to stand or to punish them for kneeling would run straight into this Johnson precedent.
It would be a major constitutional battle. The case essentially ties the government's hands when it comes to mandating patriotism through law. It says you can't force respect for a symbol.
It protects the right to be provocative, to be unpopular.
As long as that expression doesn't directly incite violence or create an immediate physical danger, the line is about harm, not about offense.
And that really brings us to the final thought, doesn't it? The central paradox of the whole case.
There really is a paradox.
To protect the ideal that the American flag represents, which is freedom, the court had to protect the freedom to physically destroy that very symbol.
Well said. They concluded that the flag's real power isn't in the cloth it's made from, it's in the principles it stands for.
And the right to dissent, even in a way that deeply offends people, is a stronger principle than the need to protect an object from that offense. That's a tough but maybe necessary price for a free society to pay.
You've been listening to The Daily Brief, one landmark court decision explained in plain English every day. Presented by FindCourtCases.com, this is your daily briefing on the law that shapes American life. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with the next case.